Hi folks, this is Boris Johnson here, launching the number 10 TikTok site.
Boris Johnson started it and Rishi Sunak tried it. TikTok was the most downloaded app last year in the world and a key tool for the government to reach the mobile masses, until now.
We are also going to ban the use of TikTok on government devices. We will do so with immediate effect. Mr. Speaker, this is a precautionary move. We know that there is already limited use of TikTok across government, but it is also good cyber hygiene.
Mr. Dowden said that given the sensitivity of government data, it was necessary to not just now pre-approve what third-party apps could be downloaded, but to ban TikTok entirely.
There's worry over the type and amount of user data the app collects. So this includes pictures and videos, concerns over facial recognition using some of those pictures, location tracking.
Yet in the Commons, Mr. Dowden didn't mention the reason for the focus on TikTok, something picked up on the backbenchers.
Can I congratulate the Minister on a quite remarkable achievement? He made that entire statement without once using the words China or Chinese.
And China is central to this because TikTok is a Chinese company and Western nations fear that one day all of that data could be handed over to the communist government in Beijing.
The TikTok leadership will say, absolutely not, we won't do that. Whereas others will point to the Chinese national security law, which says that any company or citizen working out of China is compelled to hand over data to the Chinese intelligence services if it's in the national interest.
And of course, this is the geopolitical backdrop. The leaders of the UK, the US and Australia signing off on nuclear submarines earlier this week to counter the threat of Beijing. From military to cyber, the West is moving together. The United States banned TikTok from government devices in December. The European Commission did so in February. Following today's announcement from the British government, TikTok said, "We believe these bans have been based on fundamental misconceptions and driven by wider geopolitics, in which TikTok and now millions of users in the UK play no part." But could the UK go even further? Over in the US, they're already discussing banning TikTok altogether, with the FBI director issuing this clear warning to senators last week.
Could they use TikTok to control data on millions of users?
Yes.
Could they use it to control the software on millions of devices, given the opportunity to do so?
Yes.
Could they use it to drive narratives, like to divide Americans against each other?
Yes, and I would make the point on that last one in particular that we're not sure that we would see many of the outward signs of it happening if it was happening.
I'm not leaving.
But some British politicians are perhaps not so concerned.
I'm not leaving.
A gleeful Grant Shapps shared this video.
I'm not leaving!
He was celebrating the fact that ministers can still use TikTok on their personal devices. But what about the rest of us? If you're a teenager in this country using TikTok, or you're a concerned adult, how worried should you be?
You should, of course, be worried about the amount of data you're giving to a Chinese company. There is a wider question here about how the individual and citizen shares data with platforms. And we've seen the amount of data that TikTok takes is it's quite staggering.
TikTok might be a fun video app for some, but it's another piece in this modern geopolitical jigsaw. Today's move is a precautionary step, but if bans become the norm, how would not just Beijing react, but the millions who use TikTok every day?
Well, earlier I spoke to Baroness Beeban Kidron, who's chair of the Five Rights Foundation, which promotes online protection and regulation for children and young people. She's also a member of the House of Lords Democracy and Digital Technologies Committee. I asked her if today's ban was an overreaction.
I don't know whether it's an overreaction or not, because we haven't actually seen all the evidence, but they've said it's precautionary and it follows in the footsteps of a lot of other countries doing exactly the same thing. But it does raise questions about the security and privacy of other users if they are worried that the data it sucks up on your phone from your other activity is so huge. Why are we not afforded the same level of privacy?
Right, so if you think it's a security threat for cabinet ministers, it's a security threat for us, for our kids.
Yeah, and obviously what I'm most worried about is children. I mean, you know, we've seen research, even in the last month, that shows that within minutes of being on TikTok, TikTok knows so much about you, a 13-year-old child, that it can actually start sending you things into a spiral of self-harm. And I think if it knows that much about kids, we've got to wonder whether its data practices are good enough. And I think that this sends a signal that they're not. And I think that's where I would ask whether the data regulation laws that we have in place, particularly as regards children, are being fully complied with by TikTok.
Right, well, TikTok says it's spent $1.5 billion on safeguarding user data. They also say that Chinese staff can access user data, but that they've never provided data to the Chinese government. Does that cut any ice with you?
I don't think it does really, because there is a 2017 law that says that if required, a Chinese company has to give it to the Chinese government. But I will make the point that TikTok do make, which is that all data-hungry companies do this. And I think that we actually have to look at this not on an app-by-app basis, but actually look right across the piece and make a much better settlement overall about what is our data, what is our privacy, what is the privacy we afford children in particular, and make sure that everybody actually adheres to that level.
So in other words, the focus on TikTok might be misplaced. There are many companies, many websites. I mean, looking at, say, Oppo, the Chinese mobile phone brand, a lot of these companies, you think the government and users themselves should take a new look at?
I definitely do. And I'm absolutely prepared to say there may be some geopolitical or particular privacy issues around TikTok because it's, cited in China. But I think, we could do a much better job of thinking more comprehensively about user data, and in particular, the sorts of apps that children are using day in, day out.
I mean, you mentioned data protection laws, but will the new online safety bill that's wending its way through Parliament, will that address any of these issues, or is it new legislation entirely that's required, or can that legislation be amended?
Well, we have data protection laws specially for children. It's called the Age Appropriate Design Code. And I think the ICO, in light of this decision, might want to look again and say, is TikTok following it to the nth degree? So that I would say.
That's the Information Commissioner.
Indeed. And I think the Online Safety Bill does offer a whole raft of new ways of thinking, particularly around harmful material and particularly around targeting children with harmful material. And one would hope that we will get through that, with the Online Safety Bill. But the government also has another data bill coming up in this legislative session. And I think that, if anything, we have to see the government put the Age Appropriate Design Code front and centre and make up for anything that it doesn't already cover.
Baroness Beban-Kidron, thank you very much.
Pleasure.